Hello, this is Jonah Catlin, and I will be teaching about second species counterpoint. In second species counterpoint, the counterpoint is written against a cantus firmus with two notes in the counterpoint for every note in the cantus firmus. The only exception is the last measure, which contains a whole note. But what is a cantus firmus? A cantus firmus, abbreviated as a CF, is just a short melody written in whole notes. The counterpoint can be written above or below the cantus firmus. And this image contains a few examples of cantus firmus. And it is always written in whole notes. Okay, here are some rules for second species counterpoint. There's a lot of them. Okay. First of all, the rules regarding dissonance are very similar to those in first species, if you learn that. The interval between two notes must be a first, third, fifth, sixth, or octave. And this is between the cantus firmus and the counterpoint, I should clarify. The only exception is called a passing tone, which is when you approach a dissonance on an offbeat by a step, and then resolve by a step in the same direction. The next rule is about how the counterpoint must start and end. The counterpoint must start on the same note as the cantus firmus. It does not, however, have to be on the same octave. If the counterpoint contains a rest on the downbeat of the first measure, the second note does not need to follow this rule. You'll see an example of that on the next page, I think. The counterpoint must always end in a certain way as well. The cantus firmus ends with scale degree 2, then 1. If the counterpoint is above the cantus firmus, it ends with scale degree 6, 7, then 8. If the counterpoint is below the cantus firmus, then it ends with scale degrees 5, 7, then 8. If you are using the Mixolydian, Dorian, or Aeolian mode, then you will use the sharp 7. If the counterpoint is below the cantus firmus, and you are using the Phrygian mode, then it ends with scale degrees 4, flat 7, and 8, while a cantus firmus ends with a flat 2 to 1. Lastly, the next rules are which leaps you can use for the second species counterpoint. First of all, any interval of less than a third is considered a step and can be used as much as you want. The allowed leaps outside of those notes are thirds, fourths, fifths, ascending minor sixths, and octaves. Next, when you go to a new measure, you should not reuse the same note. If the interval being approached is a third or a sixth, you can approach it any way you want. If the interval is a unison, fifth, or octave, it should be preferably approached via contrary motion to avoid a parallel octave or fifth. And pretty much contrary motion is when the cantus firmus and counterpoint move in opposite directions. Additionally, you should not put two fifths or octaves on consecutive downbeats, unless the first of those is followed by a leap of a fourth. Now, here's an example of a second species counterpoint in D Dorian for you to look at.